Okay, I have a question for Sean. When you're managing projects, do you apply the concept of project management or project management tools, like when you take, like the rules that are in the book, that do you apply those in the real field, or how important is PMP certification?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I took the project management position, going from account management, client relations to project management, I didn't have a PMP. I hadn't started at Northeastern at the time for my grad degree, which had a concentration in project management. So I was fortunate that they accepted me into the position. But it's certainly something I wanted to develop right away. So out of our maybe 50 project managers that I work with in my particular department, I'd say maybe 15 or 20 have PMPs. It's not a large number. I don't have a PMP, but I do have the minor, or the concentration in project management from Northeastern. Some companies value it and place a primer on it, but it's fine. Without it. Having the concentration in project management, we studied the PMBOK and the various project management materials, but it wasn't a requirement for my particular job. But it's certainly something that I would give some thought to if I want to move companies. Something where it may be important. So it's a good question.
We have just a couple of minutes by my watch. Are there other questions? Yes.
The nature of consulting requires you to work a lot with teamwork, and at Northeastern, at least in the business school, we definitely do a lot of team projects and teamwork. So is there any advice in terms of what has allowed you to be successful in the teams that you worked on, or what kind of has allowed you to really kind of work with that cohesive group to help you get to the next project or get other higher up managers to come and ask you to be on their projects?
It's back to a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, about just willingness to take on responsibility for the project and being a responsible teammate, making sure that you're pulling your weight, doing your fair share of the work, and then others are going to recognize that and come and find you again. Which, on a little bit of a different note, related to that, when people go and interview for jobs, companies always ask you about teams and tell me about a team that you worked on and what your role was. And it's very important when you're asked that question to describe what you did as a team, but what the real answer to the question, at least in my experience, these guys might, hopefully they agree, is what we want to hear is what your specific role was on that team. What did you contribute to the team? Not what the whole team accomplished together, but what was your specific role, and how did you operate and interact with your teammates? So it's, I think it's something to think about as you're preparing for interviews. A little bit off track, but I wanted to throw that in there.
I would agree with that, and I would also say, in general, so I feel like in some way this could be a mass question because, well, at least my experience in school and, kind of with group work, teamwork throughout life, it's kind of doesn't really meet expectations most of the time. I think, if you're motivated and you're on, a higher track, generally you find yourself pulling a lot of the work in a group, or, you kind of have to be on top of other team members to make sure they get their stuff done. Something that's been really refreshing being in the working world in consulting is the fact that that's really not an issue. Things are completely different now. I mean, when you work in a team, and I don't even mean, the managers and people, but the other analysts, there's kind of, a pre-screening before people even get to the firm. So in general, it's about being amicable, pulling your own share, explaining things thoroughly, and, being willing to interact constructively with other people. But as far as, kind of that other stuff, I actually haven't run into that at all at work. It's been really refreshing.
Yeah, so I would say that accountability is huge, right? So in college, it's difficult for a lot of times for team members to pull their own weight, and sometimes students don't care, whether it's going to affect their resulting grade, or at least it doesn't seem like it when they're not attending the meetings that you guys have at the library or whatever. But in the work world, it still happens. Folks will come up with all sorts of different excuses. It can certainly still happen. But pulling your own weight just doing what you have control, doing to the best of your ability what you have control over is really all you can do. And you just see where that takes you. So.
My deal with our presenters was that we would be an hour. So I need to thank you all very much now, Sean, Craig, and Ben, for joining us. And thank you, students, for coming, and we're getting a chance in a small group to ask some really wonderful questions. I want to go on for you to hope everybody else. Thank you so much.